week's episode of Gundam Build Fighters Try. In order to master the art of Gunpla, Team Tri-Fighters will have to learn to become one with the Gundam. Ladies and gentlemen, this week's episode was kick with a side of ass. I really loved this one, and I was really surprised, because I honestly thought this episode was going to be kind of a bummer, especially because the first half was a little slow, but it was all a build-up to the reveal of their brand new Gundams that they're going to be using in this championship, which features a number of awesome opponents. The first half of the episode just goes around to each member. We have Sekai, who's trying to train himself to fight in any situation. He's actually training at the bottom of this pool using his martial arts abilities, because in a way that will simulate space. You also have Yuma Kosaka, who's been sort of fine-tuning his Lightning Gundam, and he even has this practice round with Mr. Rawl, which we don't get to see too much of it, but it is heavily implied that Yuma Kosaka just ran a train over him, because according to Rawl, he's one of the few opponents who's actually caused him to drop his shield, and that's a pretty big deal. And then we have Fumina Hoshino. She actually completes her brand new Gunpla this week, and we've seen it in the intros for weeks. It's the winning Gundam. It's an SD Gundam, and it makes a real great impression in the final battle of this week's episode, which is definitely the highlight. So let's just talk about that. They go to this tournament where there's going to be a number of teams and people from different high schools who are competing, and some of them we have seen before, and some of them have actually just been introduced in this week's episode. It is interesting to note that Fumina does mention the reason she wants to do Gunpla is because she was inspired by this female fighter she saw years ago who was using a model that I've never actually seen before, or maybe I have. It just slips my mind. If you guys could tell me what that mobile suit was, it had this like big ring behind its back. It kind of reminded me like something from Gundam Seed, but I can't quite put my finger on it. What I will say is, this is a brand new character who also seems to have ties to an old character, Tatsuya Yuki, Meijin Kawaguchi, who is definitely one of the most badass characters from the first season, and he's teased at the very end of this week's episode. He's actually been watching the entire tournament, and the schools here are awesome. First, let's just talk about the first one. They're known as Angelfish. They're the guys who are obsessed with fighting underwater. They use nothing but underwater mobile suits, and I'm not sure if this is going to be a detriment to them at all, because they win their first battle because they're right next to the ocean. But Yuma even brings up, if this were in space, wouldn't they be screwed? What would happen if they were in the middle of a desert or a jungle? What are they going to do in that situation? I can't wait to see how they're going to handle that, because it's inevitably going to happen. As far as kick-assery goes, Team Crosssword looks like they're going to be ones to look out for. I especially like the fact that they use the Sandrock Gundam from Gundam Wing, just getting a little love from that one. We have the Strike Noir, which was originally, I believe, seen in Stargazer, which was a Gundam Seed OVA special. And last but not least from G Gundam is the Spiegel Gundam, which was piloted by Schwarzbruder, and he was kind of an important character from that series, and I just love the fact that they're returning with this one, because I love the design of it. I especially love the big blades that are on its arm, which extend outwards, and I kind of like the theme going here. I like how Angelfish is all underwater. Crosssword, they use all of these like physical sword-type weapons. There is one team that is a little mysterious that was teased in the previous episode, and in this episode we get to see that Minato Sakai has actually built them this mega shiki mobile suit that they're going to use, and it just looks really awesome. They're pining over it, and we really don't get to see them go into battle much this week at all, but there's still plenty of awesome mobile suits, and I can't even like name all of them. Just that final battle at the end where they opened up with multiple different battles was just really exciting, and any Gundam fan is definitely going to appreciate that. The final battle of the episode, though, is fantastic because we finally get to see Team Tri-Fighters coming out and everybody gets to do something awesome. First, the Lightning Gundam can now transform into this big airplane mode, which makes it really quick. It can fire cluster missiles. The Winning Gundam is awesome because when it first flies out, it's actually already in airplane mode and nobody knows that it's going to transform. When it becomes the Winning Gundam, it's awesome. It doesn't really do anything too flashy, but it does have an incredible transformation sequence. And then that leaves us with the Build Burning Gundam. It's definitely going to steal the show at the end of this week's episode, because Sakai's training is actually working because he's actually managed to make this thing run around in space. It has something to do with the particle dispersal, because it literally looks like he's kicking the air as he's running around space, and he's able to do an incredibly badass punch by spinning his fists around, and is able to take out the other team, winning their first round. And it's a really nice episode. It just puts you in a good mood, because it all ends with Fumina jumping on top of Yuma and Sekai, hugging them and thanking them for getting them through the first round. It's the first time she's ever gone that far in the tournament, and they still want to get there and they want to win. And I mean, they're the main characters, so there's a pretty good chance that that's going to happen. Otherwise, this was just a really nice, make-you-feel-good episode that's also kind of planting the seeds for some other things later in the series. I loved the whole Tatsuya Yuki thing at the end with that lady character, and I'm really interested to see what she's about. Maybe she's like the apprentice of Tatsuya, maybe it's his significant other, I'm not really sure. There's also the character of Minato Sakai, who is going to be like the rival for Kosaka, and at the end of the episode, in the post-credit scene, he's having a huge outburst with him, and that's where the episode just sort of ends. But it's got me really interested to see what's going to happen, and I need to remember that there are post-credit scenes in this series. I almost forget that half the time, and I always have to go back and rewatch it, but still, what's the rundown? On this week's episode of Gundam Build Fighters Try, it was fun. It was very slow in the first half, but there was actually a little bit of room for development and a little bit of humor. It almost seems like at this point that Mirai is actually shipping Sekai and Fumina. Like, originally she didn't want them to be together, but now she actually wants something to come of this, and I could imagine they're probably going to start a relationship at some point later in the future. Although romance is not exactly this series' strong point, it does make up for the fact that there is a lot of action in the second half of the episode, which is really exciting. Like I said, I can't even name all of the mobile suits that were in this week's episode. I was just able to name some of my favorites. But I really loved it. I love how they immediately get to these tournaments and start having fun. And the reason I think I love Gundam Build Fighters so much is because one of my favorite things about action anime and manga series, one of my favorite style of arcs, is the tournament arc. And a lot of that probably has to do with my love for Dragon Ball Z, because originally that series was sort of built upon the foundation of having a tournament and introducing a lot of really interesting fighters who have cool abilities and ideals, and just seeing them clash is just always really fun, and that's probably why I love the Dark Tournament arc from Yu Yu Hakusho, and that's probably why I'm really loving Dressrosa from One Piece. Just, there's something about tournament arcs that are always really exciting, and this episode is good because just like the previous ones, and even in the first season, the hype is always up. There's never been an episode that didn't have like a really cool action scene that got you pumped up, or at least like, you know, give you a tease for something that's going to happen later. And that's what I love about this show. It manages to hook you in all the time. But aside from that, this was also just a really funny episode, and we got to see the return of some other characters, like Gyonko and her squad returning to cheer on Sekai, which was really funny. I like how she got all pissed at the end when Fumina jumped on top of them. And I'm really starting to enjoy the dynamic between Team Tri-Fighters, although there's still a lot of room for development, especially with the characters of Yuma and Sekai, because I mean, they're kind of working together, but, you know, they're still basically rivals, and they don't want to, you know, warm up to each other quite yet. But little by little, I think Fumina is going to be the glue that sort of holds them all together, and that's why I can't wait to see the development from this team, and how the Build Burning Gundam is going to tie into Sei Iori and Reiji possibly coming back, because according to Minato, Build Burning Gundam was one that was used by him in an 11th tournament. And that's just, you know, the fact that we already have Tatsuya Yuki there and everything, Meiwen Kawaguchi, just shows that we have to see those original characters again. I mean, we've already seen China in one small scene. It's only a matter of time before we see the heroes from the first season return, and hopefully it's going to be really interesting. The series has nothing but potential going for it, and it can only go up from here. I just can't wait to see what they're going to do, especially because they're already starting the tournament really early in the first season. I think it took them another couple episodes before they got there, although I think this might just be like the preliminaries before they get to the big tournament. Still, it's really exciting. It already feels like it's at the end of the series with how like everything is progressing and all the new characters that they're introducing, and a lot of the new ones that they've already introduced, they haven't even done anything with them yet. The first half of the episode was very slow in my opinion, but it made up for it in the second half, and I just loved all of the action this week and the development between Team Tri-Fighters. I'm really excited for the rest of the show. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. Not a perfect episode, but one that is going to be very entertaining to fans of the first season, and if you're enjoying the second season of Gundam Build Fighters Try. Check it out, guys. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and like the video. And before you guys leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Gundam Build Fighters Try. Did you have a favorite battle from this week's episode? A favorite mobile suit that popped up? What do you want to see from the rest of the second season? Before you guys leave, please subscribe to our channel if you have not already. You can do that by clicking on the channel icon right up here. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.